And good afternoon, friends. It's time for your Farm and Ranch news. Well, the sugar market may face a shortage next year as an early freeze and wetter than normal conditions have ruined some of this year's sugar beet crop, and certainly we've felt that effect right here in Montana and Wyoming, didn't we? Now, earlier this month, the USDA announced that it fully intends to take some appropriate action to help ensure an adequate supply of sugar to the U.S. market. Luther Marquardt is the American Sugar Beet Growers Association's executive vice president and says sugar beets have had a horrible harvest this year.
And we're going to leave over 140,000 acres of sugar beets in the ground. To put it into perspective, that's a field about a mile wide from Denver to north of Scotts Bluff. That's a lot of sugar beets to leave in the ground. So when that happens, the Department of Agriculture has to look at what our needs are going to be to make sure that consumers have an adequate supply.
Now, the USDA says that a decision there could take up to December 10th. In the meantime, the November World Egg Supply and Demand Estimate report showed that the U.S. sugar production projection declined by 572,000 short tons raw value from October. Now, USDA will be addressing options in the near future in order to help stabilize U.S. sugar supplies for the domestic market to avoid forfeitures and, of course, prevent or correct any market disruptions. Stay with us. We'll have more ag news right after this. Ready upon us, the American Farm Bureau Federation's 34th annual survey of classic items found on the Thanksgiving Day dinner table indicates that the average cost of this year's Feast for 10 is $48.91, or less than $5 a person. This is actually a 1-cent increase from last year's average. Now, AFBF Chief Economist Dr. John Newton says Americans continue to enjoy the most affordable food supply in the entire world, but most still do not realize that only 8 cents out of every dollar consumers spend on food actually makes it to the producer. According to the survey, though, despite the growing popularity of prepared foods, the vast majority of us, 92% in fact, still celebrate Thanksgiving at home or at a family member's home, and most cook their entire meal at home. And finally this afternoon, a national USDA survey published recently in Plant Disease provides the first large-scale systematic insight into how wheat and barley growers manage Fusarium head blight, also known as scab, and where they get information on how to control this destructive disease. Now, the survey, funded by USDA ARS-led U.S. Wheat and Barley Scab Initiative, includes data from more than 5,100 wheat and barley growers in 17 states, including right here in Montana. It details how grain producers perceive scab, where they get their information, which management tools they use, and problems managing the disease. Well, that's going to do it from the Ag Desk. We'll send it back over to Victoria.